looking at it as a coach, and what do I see? Like in this drill swing, Paul's kind of moving a lot when he does this. If you want to run it right from the start, just to see, because we're trying to get him to be really centered. So he shouldn't really move too much. But at this point, he's kind of moving all over the place. Like he's getting
So
lower, he's coming up.
when you say centered, Kendall, you mean center of mass, so kind of at the hips, centered over the feet? Is that what
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
referencing? Okay.
yeah. So he's actually like centered between his base of support. This was really an amazing technology that I got access to through another chiropractor. Jerry and I are both buddies with Stefan Sigalet. So the BTS Sport Lab was a four force plate, 10 cameras that were 500 frames per second. It was a markered system. So we had, I don't know, count the dots, but I think it's either 21 or 27 markers on these guys. So this is me hitting a driver, but my swing's pretty orthodox. So it kind of, we got the same results with a bunch of other different players, is what I'm trying to say. So this was a fairly consistent outcome. You'll see two white dots that are in front of the mat and in front of the golf ball. The one, I think it was, I don't know what that one was supposed to mark, but that was just their marking space. The other one that moves, that's actually tracking my center of mass in the lateral plane throughout the golf swing. There's more stuff here. So you can obviously see these purple lines, which are force vectors. So these are denoting pressure and direction of force, and then in each foot, and they're floating on the center of pressure, and then the big purple line in the middle is a sum of those forces and directions. So, like, I asked for this to be written this way because I really wanted to understand what was happening to the center of mass and ground forces. So if you roll it, you just roll it through a couple of times and it'll describe what's happening. You can see the center of mass moving back as you go frame by frame, and you can see what's happening to the weight. And just as the guy makes transition, you can see the center of mass starts to move left. Now, the interesting thing is here, just slow it. Yeah, keep on going frame by frame. Right next frame, now we've got maximum ground force. So this was the phenomena, and this is really why we started working with Casey on what we were doing. So, and this was consistent through like a lot of the good golfers we saw. There was a slightly different pattern too, but this was the most consistent one with good golfers. So his center of mass has already made a transition and it's moving towards his lead foot, which is for a right-handed golfer is his left foot. At maximum center of or ground force moment here, we noticed a few things. His arms are basically at maximum acceleration and they're approaching sort of just below hip height. But what happens from this is really interesting because golfers throughout the ages have been taught to shift their weight to hit a golf ball. And this doesn't happen in this example. What you'll see is the center of mass stays still from the time my hands are here. And if you let that thing roll, the center of mass stays until go to the next frame. And then the next frame, it'll start to move. So at a mirror image of the frame in the through swing, it starts to move again. So what we found, and I did this with Paul Casey, I did this with Vijay Singh, Ryan Moore, Stephen Ames, like all the tour players I worked with. When I explained to them that they can only rotate if the center of mass is stable, not moving, that's how they could get the most control. They had the best chance of getting the club back square to the ball, right? They had the greatest chance of generating speed because if you're moving laterally, all those things basically go away. And that was a revelation for pretty much every golf pro that I've shown this to, like whether it was a teacher or a player. They're like, I thought I was shifting my weight the whole time, right? But that's not what happens. The calm is very stable. Like really, it doesn't move from that point there. It doesn't move, doesn't move. Yeah, it doesn't move, it doesn't move, it doesn't move. And then it's pulled off of like the inertia is like overcome like when the club starts to move through, and really the club pulls you through. So golf is sort of counterintuitive in the sense that if I'm trying to hit the ball to out to the target, most people will try to move towards the target as well, and that is like the biggest fault that most players have. Oh, now what happens with a lot of guys, and this is it's been a pattern of instruction, because most people will tend to move to their left because this is a right-handed golfer. What they'll do to counterbalance it is they'll lean back with their spine. And Casey was leaning back so far because he was over engaging his legs and moving back so far. He was pressing his right toe into the ground, and that's how he got turf toe.